Welcome, good morning from Pax Europiana, this time from Upper Austria. This is my pre-press conference briefing in English. I launched the second Austrian People's Petition. It's an instrument of Austrian direct democracy to open the Austrian labor market for all EU candidate countries. Hello, my friends from Moldova, Ukraine, Bosnia. Welcome for the new status 2022. But I also include, of course, my friends Kosovo and from Georgia, the two ones who are still potential, but hopefully soon EU candidate countries. But all countries, even Serbia, where I'm quite critical very often, but I want them that they have easy and simple and clear access to the EU labor market. It's not only the Austrian, but the German labor market is much more open than the Austrian, and this has to change. We basically have to give them similar rights as if they would be already EU citizens. This is the best way to handle the situation. It is integrating these countries faster in the European Union. It is obviously also relieving the inflationary pressure we have at the moment. It is showing unity in Europe, and it's the economic rational answer to the Russian energy war. We basically have the issue on the energy market. We are much better than we were at the beginning of 2022, but we then also answer on the labor market with more unity as we do with the energy markets, and obviously that will work very well. This People's Petition I'm now promoting in a second Austrian regional tour for all the regional capitals. And I'm also outlining not just the opening of the labor market, but I also use this opportunity to also reiterate that Austria should join NATO, that we basically are much better if we are all in NATO, united, the EU in NATO, and all the countries in NATO, obviously. That's the answer to the Russian war. And also that we are all in the European Union, ultimately, all the 37 countries, but that we start with economic integration. I will also in the run-up of 2024, when it's 20 years of the big enlargement, and also it's then 35 years of the end of communism in Central Europe and the tremendous positive year of the victory in the Cold War in 89, we will also then in the run-up also reinterpret it a little bit, the enlargement, because the populists, the socialists, the communists, and all these negative forces who are from the extreme right and extreme left, and they have somehow, and also some of the reasonable centrist people, they have negatively talked about EU enlargement, and I will show now in this presentation which I'm doing that enlargement works very well. It is a big success. The countries of Central and Eastern Europe, some of them are much richer than Austria now in terms of PPS, at least their capitals. It's quite astonishing. Prague is at 202% of EU GDP. Hello, here in Upper Austria we are at 128. Yeah? So I will show all these things, and I will outline that economic integration, when we cannot do political integration, like in the case of Serbia, Kosovo, and Bosnia. The countries are still blackmailed by Serbian extremism, and that's of course more difficult, but we can of course integrate the NATO allies politically as well, like Albania, North Macedonia, and of course also Montenegro, my beloved Montenegro, which I also represent as president of Montenegro Goes Europe. But the situation is that these countries we can integrate politically, but all countries, also Ukraine and Moldova and Georgia, we can integrate in our labor market, in our energy market, in our infrastructure common funding process, which we partly are doing now already. But we need also common debt, because we have not built the infrastructure for EU 37. We need to do that. And we need also €1. Nobody who is following my podcast will be surprised. We need the same currency from Ukraine, Moldova, Georgia to the Western Balkans, and also basically hello Sweden, and even in Hungary, which will probably be the last country to adopt it, because the guy is living off our money but mocking our currency, and that's of course very bad. Yeah? So we are in this situation. So what we need to do is basically economically integrate immediately. We need to fast track the common energy market, infrastructure market, labor market. We need a Schengen association kind of style of unity kind of instrument for the new countries to be associated to Schengen. We need all of them in the EU customs union. And that we can all do pretty immediately, actually. I'm talking in this mandate by 2024, at least economically integrate all the 9 countries and also work on closer economic cooperation with Turkey, but not on political membership. Because we should divide a bit these economic measures, which we can be very concrete and very, very successful, and we should do that. And also, obviously, you know me, I will always talk about also the reason why we have this big success. For example, in Romania, we'll focus a lot of Romania because the Austrian government has now rejected Romania's EU and now Schengen membership. It's already 16 years in the EU and very successful. The GDP of Romania was astonishingly enough about 37 billion in 2000. Some might remember I was very often in Romania as SME and EDS chairman in these years, in the decade. I was very active in Brussels from 95 to 2004, yeah, so 94 to 2004. And it was an extremely successful thing to do because they have adopted the flat tax, they have learned on that one, and they are now from 37, they are crossing the 300 billion threshold 23 years later, and that's quite astonishing. It's not 10 times more GDP in 2 decades, that would be too much, but about 8 times. And that's quite a tremendous success of all this policy, and so we can all be very proud who contributed to the 2004 enlargement. And there is unfortunately some negative guys who say, too early. What a nonsense of policy. And now we have even the Austrian Putin friends, the nationalists, ex-Nazis, or partly still Nazis. They want to turn Austria in a fortress. They even put it on posters, Festung Austria. They are, of course, not for Festung against Russia, because they are paid by Russia and they are against Austrian NATO membership. But these evil forces which Russia is funding, they are obviously very harmful, and that's why the Austrian People's Party has stopped Schengen, and for Romania and Bulgaria. I will also make a case now that I have written an open letter to the governor of Lower Austria. That's one of our regions around Vienna, and they were basically plotting in front of this Austrian, Upper Austria and Lower Austria, and I am now in Upper Austria. Lower Austria is the federal region around Vienna, and I'm now here in Linz. But I will still distribute this open letter because it's very important to make it very clear that we should support Romania and Bulgaria and Schengen, and we should also build the infrastructure east of Vienna, which is so vital for the Austrian interconnectivity with Slovakia and with the whole Eastern and New Europe. And we have not done that, and that was a very big mistake. And so I'm saying to the Austrian government, please build the Lobau tunnel east of Vienna. That's the motorway ring east of Vienna, which the Greens have blocked, and because they hate motorways. And now we don't have the interconnectivity east of Vienna, and they block many other things east of Vienna, like the third runway for the Austrian airport at Vienna, and they block also the fast train over there towards Zagreb and towards Budapest, and ultimately towards Mariupol, after Mariupol is liberated with German tanks, hopefully very soon. And by May 2023, we should have liberated that amazing city, European city. And we need to interconnect, we need to connect Ukraine, we need to build a big infrastructure package towards the Black Sea, towards Ukraine. This is the logic, and Austria must also have the infrastructure to interconnect towards Slovakia and towards Czech Republic, and inside Austria. That requires also more investment at the Danube, more investment at the railway, a northern Austrian highway, and that's so important, and also the whole interconnectivity. And my concrete proposal is that the governor of Lower Austria is negotiating now a deal that we get the best out of both worlds. That was the slogan of that coalition, the Greens and the Conservatives together, to make sure that we have a pro-European coalition, that they make up with that important country, Romania, with all these enormous energy resources in the Black Sea, and that Romania is important for European energy. That I think everybody should know. And we can also work much closer with Romania, build a strategic partnership, excuse for our tremendous failure in 2022, and then also make sure for the Eastern Europeans, Central Europeans, that we build the infrastructure, this tunnel, and that we overrule Mrs. Gewessler's veto, and that we overrule also Mr. Kahner's veto. So we make basically a new compromise in that coalition, and that's what I'm calling for. The best of both worlds means that we build the infrastructure we need for the EU 37, and also that we complete the accession and the full integration as we have achieved it with Croatia now. And Romania and Bulgaria should be in Schengen, absolutely, because it has very little to do with immigration. Obviously, it's border control inside the European Union. Obviously, Romania and Bulgaria are still controlling, even much better with EU help, the EU external border. And this whole alliance with Mr. Orban, I will also criticize, because it's absolutely nonsensical. And it is absolutely wrong. There should be a clear alliance with Albania, with Ukraine, and with our friends here. That's my first start. I will make a small coffee break. And I will then in some minutes also continue with the German. But all my friends who speak basically better English, I will then focus on, I will also record the press conference and publish it here in that beautiful language. Yeah? What else? The infrastructure I've said. I think the customs union, I made it very clear. I have the energy thing. I'm also calling to lift this Austrian negativity against nuclear energy, as nuclear energy, some countries like it. I don't say Austria needs it. Maybe I will say that one day. But we should really focus on the end of Russian nuclear blackmail power in Eastern Europe, in the new Europe, and we should have American or German or French nuclear industry in and supply from Australia, Canada, and also make it very clear to have a trade embargo against Russia and a free trade agreement with Mercosur and with of course, the US. That will be my next Austrian People's Petition in the coming days. And I will also outline then the tax reform. That's very important. I'm now for 15% flat tax for all Europe, 15% on the corporation tax, and that we have, more or less, it's getting better in some countries. And then also 15% income tax. And we have seen you can like it or not, but the growth in Eastern Europe, mostly they had low tax systems, much lower than in Western Europe. The growth was tremendous. More or less, as a rule of thumb, you can say the last 20 years have shown 100% of GDP growth, also double in 20 years is not enormous performance. You should double in every 10 years. And many countries have done that, and then other countries have actually 8 times a higher GDP because they followed the advice. What we should do, obviously, is the European Union membership, the internal market, which should work much better. By the way, if we would have allowed Romania to a euro and to Schengen already, it would even be richer. And OECD membership, because they all make sense, these instruments. These institutions exist for a reason. Smarter people than me have invented the euro, the OECD, the Schengen, and it makes economic sense, obviously. The freer the people, the freer and the goods and the services and the capital can move, obviously, then growth is higher. I mean, that's the basic logic of any economics, beside whatever, communism. And so ultimately, we have not allowed the Eastern Europeans fully in, and then they have still grown so much. So who says it's not successful? I really cannot understand it. And I also looked at the capital regions, Bucharest and Budapest and Bratislava, Warsaw, and they're all Budapest 153, Bratislava 162% of EU GDP purchasing power, and then we have Bucharest, Vienna at 148. You know, it's not a poor city, it's really nice. Austria, Upper Austria, where I'm here, at 128. Not so good. The most capital regions are already better. And then we have Oberbayern, this is our neighboring region in Germany, it's at 176. So you see, there could be really much better situation, and we need better policy, we need lower taxes, we need more European Union unity in our institutions, and we need also more openness to the world, and we need to join NATO, obviously. That's unity. We need to open the way for Romania and Bulgaria to join Schengen. We need the trade agreements with the free world. We need also lower taxes, and we need, absolutely important, the infrastructure which EU 37 logically requires, and that's what we need. That's what I will advocate in this press conference. That was my pre-English, pre-conference briefing. The next video will be in German language, and I thank you very much for your attention, and please, wherever you are, support Austria join NATO, and support also the opening of the labor market of all EU, for all EU candidate countries already now, and please also support the EU trade agreements, which hopefully we will now, in a tremendous push for opening to the world and boycotting Russia, conclude in 2023 and 24, and then we can really have a much more prosperous, secure, united Europe in the European elections 2024, and then also beyond that for the next mandate, and that will be very successful. Thanks a lot for that. More to come from Pax Europiana. Please subscribe, and the second video in German to be issued very soon. Bye.